Hello, Ray Phoenix here. Welcome to Wipeout for the PS1 from 1995. This is the first ever game in the Wipeout franchise, a game that began a very long-running series of futuristic racing games set in the future. This is Wipeout. It is set in the year 2052. The world's been hit by some sort of apocalyptic event, and we now live in a dystopian world. And the only thing people have going for them is racing. Anti-gravity racing. Where we fly in these anti-gravity ships over these race tracks that are set in various locations all over the world, and we race against each other, and we use weapons to throw each other off. There's no eliminations in this game. We have unlimited health in this game, but we do have like health and shielding and things like that in the sequels, but there's none of that in this game. Mostly just use weapons as a means of defense or a means of knocking off our enemies so we can pass them, so we can get into first place. They're always racing against 7 other contestants. And this is on the difficulty known as Venom. There's two. There's Venom and Rapier, which Rapier is like extremely hard, and Venom is actually much easier. The difficulty in this game isn't really that balanced. This is a very, how do I say it? This game is very not well balanced with difficulty and with difficulty. Some of the ships aren't. Well, this ship I'm using right now is AG Systems, being flown by Daniel Chang. I actually think Daniel Chang is one. Well, the only thing that selecting a different pilot does in this game just changes the decals of your ship. This makes your ship look different. This changes the physical appearance. More than that, I don't think it makes much of a difference. They abandoned that feature in most of the most of the Wipeout games that came after this, except for Wipeout Fusion. Wipeout Fusion still, for some reason, still has. Well, they brought back you could choose a different pilot, but then they got rid of that again in the other Wipeout games that came afterwards. This is a long-running series with a lot of games in it. This game was one thing that this game was somewhat known for was that it appeared in the 1995 movie Hackers. There's a part where the main character of that movie plays this Wipeout game against Angelina Jolie, and he ends up beating her score at the game when they're at some weird club. That was a really weird movie, a Hackers movie from 1995. And this game is, like I said, this is a really good game. This game came out in 1995. It's one of the first games on the PS1. The graphics are really good for 1995 standards. Graphically, this is actually one of the better games from 1995. This game looks a lot better than Ridge Racer. It looks a lot better than Twisted Metal. And it looks a lot better than quite a few other games I've seen from 1995 as well, too. The controls aren't that bad. I think this game uses the same engine from what I've heard, from what I've seen and played. This game uses the same physics engine that was also used in another game Psygnosis made, which is Destruction Derby, which is like a demolition derby game, that same slash racing game that came out on the PS1 also around the same time. It was a good game too. I mostly know Wipeout because it was on a demo disc that I got, the first ever PS1 demo disc I got way back in 1995. It had a demo. It's just this one level, it's one track of this one ship with this one Daniel Chang as the pilot, and it's only one lap, and you pretty much never win, so you need more than one lap to take first place, but the game never lets you do that because it cuts you off after the first lap. Not a really good representation of what the final game has to offer. But then again, since when did that demo disc ever give you proper representations of what the games have to offer? There's only a few playable demos on there, and most of the demos on there are really just videos, like tech demos and things you can watch of games. A lot of them don't really do justice to what the games actually are. But the Wipeout demo, even though it's just one lap, you actually still get a good idea what the game is. It does play, the game does look very good and it plays very good. This game has an awesome soundtrack too. The music in this game is really good. It's all music done by Cold Storage. It's copyrighted music. It's music I replaced it with other music for this video, but it does have a really good soundtrack. All the Wipeout games have really good soundtrack. Wipeout is a lot like Twisted Metal in a lot of ways. You control some sort of technology thing, and you fly around or drive around, and you shoot weapons at your enemies, and a lot of it's a game of survival, especially in the later Wipeout games. There's a lot of survival in it, and there's a lot of attacking your enemies. It's very weapons oriented, and they're competitions as well too. Heck, some of the later Wipeout games even have it where the point of the game is to downright destroy other contestants, just like in Twisted Metal. This game actually does have a lot in common with Twisted Metal. Some Twisted Metal games have actual licensed soundtracks in them, just like all these Wipeout games. Only Twisted Metal focuses more on hard rock and heavy metal, and Wipeout focuses more on electronic music, or it's supposed to be the future, so it's gonna have far. I mean, Twisted Metal's the future too, but Wipeout's supposed to be far in the future, decades in the future. In the later games, centuries into the future. and yet we still have these same ships. There's a few like ship classes. I'm being AG systems. It stands for anti-gravity systems. It's supposedly the first of the anti-gravity ships, and there's also Visor, Aerucom, and Kyrex in this game. Those are the other ships you can fly in this game. And you might notice there's some stars above my speed gauge right there. That's how many lives you have. The lives work just like they do in Mario Kart. If you lose a race, or if you don't come in a qualifying position, you have to play the race again. Then you lose a life like that, kind of like in Mario Kart. Heck, this game was even compared. A lot of people compared this game to Mario Kart back in the day when it came out, because this game actually does have a lot in common with Mario Kart. They're both racing games that involve they involve shooting things at your enemies and trying to pass them and trying to take first place. And it has that same sort of thing where you can win races and you're in points, and the racer with the most amount of points at the end is considered to be the winner. This is I think I already made it obvious, but this is the PS1 version of the game, which the PS1 version of this game is by far the best version of this game. It's way better than the DOS version. There was a version that came out in DOS, Windows 3.1, Windows 95 at the time, and there was which I heard wasn't that good, and there was also a Sega Saturn version which wasn't that good either. But the reason why the Saturn version was kind of lacking compared to this PS1 version, because the Saturn version actually came out a bit later, but the Sega Saturn actually was an inferior system to the PS1. All it has to do with the PS1 actually, because Sega rushed the Sega Saturn so they could get it released before the PS1s. They thought they could beat Sony that way, but their plan backfired, and it caused them to fail really hard. So the Saturn did have a lot of limitations. They used actual sprites for some of the weapons in this game, which in the PS1 version, as you can see here, it uses actual 3D models for the weapons, not sprites like the Sega Saturn version. Because the PS1 was just that better of a system than the Sega Saturn, and the PS1 deserved to be a way better system than the Sega Saturn. It was by all means a better system. It actually used memory cards to save games, which was very reliable. Saturn, not so much, which caused data loss for a lot of people in some of the games. I wouldn't trust a real Sega Saturn with real serious game data. Then again, I never owned a Sega Saturn. I've always just played the games on emulators. Because, well, eventually all games are going to have to be played on emulators, considering the fact that retro games are becoming so frickin' expensive. This Wipeout game costs an arm and a leg to buy nowadays. A lot of retro games cost an arm and a leg. It's going to keep getting worse and worse with inflation, and then the games becoming more and more rare. That's why emulation is really important for preserving these classic games, but I was never interested in playing this game on the Sega Saturn, because why play the Saturn version, or even why play the DOS version, when you could play this version, the good version, the very good version, the very good Wipeout on the PS1. A really good game. The graphics are really, I keep saying the graphics are really good. You can see advertisements for different ship class. Look, there's AG systems. That's what we're flying as, AG systems. And then you can see there's ads for Psygnosis. Psygnosis is a company that made this game. And what's funny is, I am aware there's another TV show out there that was made by ABC, or was on ABC, called Wipeout. It has absolutely nothing to do with this game. A lot of people on Discord got confused when I was talking about this game. They thought I was talking about ABC Wipeout. So now, because of that, whenever I talk about this game on Discord or anywhere like that, I have to call this game Psygnosis Wipeout to distinguish it from ABC Wipeout, because those are two completely different things that just happen to have the same name. There's other Wipeouts too. I remember the band, I forget what they were called, but I remember there was some like surf rock band from the 60s that did a song called Wipeout, and there was also a game show from the late 80s, early 90s called Wipeout, which I never seen it before, heard it before. If there's an ad for cheesy treats for dogs, Wipeout games pretty much always have fictional products or ads for things that don't really exist in real life, simply because it's far in the future. We don't know what products are going to exist far in the future. All the familiar products we have now might be gone and long forgotten by the time this game comes out. Maybe that's what they're reflecting on. It's supposed to be a post-apocalyptic dystopian world too, where maybe a lot of our products got removed or something, or got destroyed or something like that. So now we have new products like Spacewalk, where you can book a spacewalk and go into space. It's like a touristy thing where people could actually fly into space. There is a bonus level in this game that's actually set on the planet Mars. I was never able to make it to that level though, simply because to get that you have to win on Rapier, which is the hardest difficulty in the game, and I've never been able to do that before. I've never been able to win at Rapier. This game has a really BS. Like, the most BS thing about this game is how it does how it accumulates your score and accumulates the winner, how it determines who the winner is in the championship mode, which is what we're playing right now. If you can win every single race in the entire game, but if you downright lose the last race, it's going to consider, and you run out of all your lives, it's going to consider that as a game over and you lost. You could do really good, and if you lose the last race, you're considered a loser pretty much by this game standards, which is something the later Wipeout games don't do. I've recently been playing Wipeout Pulse, which is one of the far more later Wipeout games, came out years after this one, and there's tournament modes in that game, and I've downright lost races in that game, but despite that, I still did good on the other races, so I still won the overall tournament, which is, a good way to decide who the winner is or not. But I remember saying to you that if Wipeout Pulse had this game's logic, I would be losing all those tournaments. I would never win so many medals in Wipeout Pulse. If Wipeout Pulse had this game's sense of logic as to who the winner is or not. You're also going to lap people a lot of the time in this game too, kind of like in some other racing games I played, like other Wipeout games. It's actually very common in the Wipeout series to lap people, or to fly past people. Or to fly past people, or to lap them, or I think it's called fly past them. And it's a very common thing in this game. This game also does suffer from slowdown, and it does suffer from some other things that I know the PS1 could have done better, but this was an early PS1 game that came out in 1995, so I do cut it a lot of slack for that. It was a very early game on the system, and it's really good actually for the early game standards. This is one of the first games that my father bought for the PS1 way back in 1995, and he loved it so much he bought the other two Wipeout games that are on the PS1. The other two Wipeout games on the PS1 are actually a lot better than this actually, because when people make games, they always learn about what they did wrong the first time around, so they can improve and learn how to make a better game. Because there is a sequel to this game called Wipeout XL. It's called Wipeout XL in some regions. It's called Wipeout 2097 in some other regions. It's by all means a way better game than this original Wipeout, but this game is still really good. Yeah, this is still a pretty good game. Just like how the first Jet Moto wasn't that great. I mean, it was good. It was a very good game. The sequel is definitely better. Then there was Twisted Metal, the original Twisted Metal. Some people say it's one of the best games in the series. I actually think it's one of the worst games in the series. Or another way I'll put it, I think the original Twisted Metal is probably the worst of the good Twisted Metal games, the good classic Twisted Metal games. It's a good game, but the sequel is definitely better. It's easier to control. Some of the physics work better. They always improve the physics engines in these games. And this game, as I said before, this game does use the same engine as Destruction Derby, but I think the later Wipeout, I think it's like almost every Wipeout game I know from the PS1 uses a different engine. So Wipeout XL feels very different. The physics in Wipeout XL feel completely different from the physics in this game, and Wipeout 3's physics feel very different too. And by the time Wipeout 3 came out, Psygnosis, the company that made these games, got bought out by Sony, and now all the Wipeout games that Wipeout 3 and afterwards were all made exclusively for PlayStation systems, and Sony wants people to forget that Wipeout was ever released on other systems like PC or Sega Saturn. It also explains why the one and only N64 Wipeout game, Wipeout 64, the only Wipeout game that got released on a Nintendo system, and that got released exclusively on a non-PlayStation system. Sony wants people to forget that game exists, so they never mention it or acknowledge it anywhere. They want people to forget about that game. They want people to remember this game, the original Wipeout, the classic Wipeout. Some of the tracks in this game are very long, and I find that a lot of the time I end up coming in first place kind of early in the race. I have to spend the rest of the race just being in first place and getting really far ahead of people. You very rarely ever see like actual enemy shots hit you. You usually know if enemy shots are going to hit you or not, because you usually hear the narrator of this game. It's a different narrator in each game, and it's pretty much always a computer voice narrator. You hear him say something like rocket or mines or shockwave. Get hit by shockwaves. The weapons do different things. The shockwave is a pretty effective weapon, so it makes your ship like jerk around, it makes you lose control of the ship. It's like crash into walls or something like that, and then there's a shield, which all the shield really does is just prevent stuff like that from hitting your ship, so you can still stay in first place, and still stay in a good place. As I said before, there is no shield in this game. You don't have to worry about getting eliminated in this game. And there's also mines, which just slow down your ship. Pretty much all the weapons in this game do the same thing. They slow down your ship, pretty much, or slow down other ships or things like that, so you could come in first place. This game was also, another thing that was also noted when this game was compared to Mario Kart in an ad, is that sure, this game is like Mario Kart, but it is intended for like a more, mature demographic of people than Mario Kart. Mario Kart is like very kiddie and happy-go-lucky. Well, this game, this Wipeout game, this is a real man's game. This is a challenging game. The people in the UK that made this game comes from the UK. They really want to make a really challenging racing game. They'll challenge those people, those Japanese gamers that are like over the top, like masters at a lot of Japanese games, because Japanese gamers are typically, well, a lot of them are stereotyped as being better gamers than American gamers, which is why Japanese versions of games often are way more difficult than their American and European counterparts. But then again, I've played a lot of Japanese versions of games before, and I find that a lot of Japanese versions of games, sure, they might be a little bit more challenging, but they're not that challenging. Or maybe I'm just that good of a master. I've been playing these games for years. I've been playing Wipeout for years. I sucked hard at this game when I first got it. I began as my father lent me this game back in 2011 because I saw it in a store somewhere, and I wanted to buy it. Then I remembered, oh yeah, my father probably has this game somewhere. So then I asked if I could borrow it from him, and then he let me borrow it in Twisted Metal too. And then I started playing this game. I really sucked hard at first. The game like completely destroyed my skills or destroyed everything I had pretty much. But then I started playing the time attack mode or the time trial mode. Just played time trial and memorized all these courses, and eventually I got so good that then eventually I played the Venom mode, and then once you complete the game in Venom mode, then you unlock Rapier, which is a harder difficulty in the game. The game is a lot faster in Rapier mode, and the enemies are like very unforgiving. They have unlimited ammo, and they pretty much just cheat like hell in that mode. It's really hard to get a place that's better than 8th place when you play in Rapier mode. In Rapier mode, 8th place is the new 1st place. but then it won't let you pass through the first level then if you lose because of this game's BS logic, and this game is BS logic. So now we're going to, well, we've actually cleared like 4 out of the, or yeah, that's like, there's like 6 levels in this game, I think. Yeah, there's 6 levels in this game, and I already completed like 4 of the 6 levels. This game at 6 levels is actually a good amount for a game like this, and especially consider the fact that it's 1995. All people really knew before us is stuff like Ridge Racer, even stuff like Virtua Racing and things like Virtua Racing only had like 3 racetracks per the entire game. Even that was on the Sega Genesis, and then even the Sega 32X isn't really much different. There's even a Saturn version that kind of had the same thing. Same with Daytona USA. Daytona USA came out around the same time as this game did for the Sega Saturn, and that game only had 3 racetracks the entire game. This has 6 racetracks. That's twice as much as Daytona USA. And this game is a big challenge too, which will keep players busy for quite some time. I can imagine this being the only game. I probably would be an extreme expert at this game if I played this game all day, every day, did nothing but play Wipeout all day, every day, like how people play World of Warcraft all day, every day. If I played Wipeout like that, I would be an extreme master. I'd probably be in the Guinness Book of World Records for being like the best Wipeout player in the world. I would hope people would take me to Wipeout tournaments where I'd have a reputation for beating everyone at Wipeout. But I don't do that because, well, there's plenty of other games I like to play. There's a large list of other games I like to play, and other stuff I do. I mean, I don't live and breathe Wipeout. I like Wipeout. It's like one of my favorite game franchises ever. But even then, I don't live and breathe Wipeout. There's a lot of other things I like to do as well, too, that's not playing Wipeout. But then again, I can imagine like setting up a bed inside of one of those ships and just sleeping in my bed while my ship races through the game, or having like a really, I imagine on the inside they make it like really comfy and filled with padding on the inside of those ships. So that way, because you're going to get hit a lot. The reason why this game is called Wipeout is because as you wipe out a lot, you hit walls. You're going to hit walls a lot. You're going to crash into other players. You're going to get shot at a lot, which is going to cause you to wipe out. Hence the name Wipeout. So actually having a cockpit that's covered with bedding and stuff like that, bedding materials, things that's actually quite would actually be beneficial. Actually, it'll be nice padding, so that way you get bumped around, so that you're just gonna hit padding ring, and then you're not really gonna get killed. I mean, people do get killed in these tournaments. Apparently the guy I'm racing as Daniel Chang. He's like a Chinese racer or something like that. And he actually did get killed in a race accident eventually, some years after the events of this game happened. I never even realized Wipeout had so many deep stories until I actually found the Wipeout wiki. But again, it's just a wiki. I don't know how accurate that is. But then again, one of them actually was written by someone that claims he actually worked in the storylines for this game, where he actually wrote for these back in 1995, or he used one of those 90s Mac computers to write the stories for this game. Yeah, and I think they claim that Daniel Chang eventually died at some point far into the future. Or sort of not really far in the future. I mean, sometime after the events of this game, before any of the other Wipeout games could happen. I mean, because like I said, this is a very long-running series, a very long Wipeout series. It will even have more games than Twisted Metal. I mean, definitely has more recent games than Twisted Metal. Sony abandoned Twisted Metal. They didn't abandon Wipeout. There's still Wipeout games being made on modern systems, and they still get promoted on modern systems. And they still get promoted on modern systems. They still make new games. So Wipeout definitely is still a current series, and they definitely tend to it more than other series like Ape Escape or stuff like that. Or because there hasn't been an Ape Escape game since 2006, not including spin-off games. I think Wipeout should be a household name a lot of the time. I think Wipeout should be a lot more famous. They should make Wipeout merchandise. They probably did make Wipeout merchandise, and I don't know about it. I would love to have a Wipeout t-shirt. I can imagine having an AG Systems t-shirt or something like that, and people probably look at me thinking, what is that? What the hell is AG Systems? I have to explain to them what it is, and I have to tell them it's from Wipeout. I'm like, I've seen that show a lot before. I don't remember there being an AG Systems in that show. It's not a show, it's a game. Wipeout. Some people think their Wipeout actually could make a good show on a streaming service or something, like a good mini-series maybe, or a streaming service show. People say, well, F-Zero had a really good anime series that only aired in Japan, so why not Wipeout? And then apparently there's going to be a Twisted Metal TV show as well, too, so if that could have Twisted Metal can make a good TV show, I'm sure Wipeout would make a good TV show. There'd be a lot of politics and bureaucrats involved in it, and there'd probably be people placing bets on the racers. I imagine that people in the future watch stuff like this. I imagine people in the future watch kind of like how people watch sports in our time. Sometimes they show racing. They show like Formula One racing sometimes, and they show Formula One racing. Or there's like NASCAR racing. In the future, people watch Wipeout racing. I think the tournament's actually called the F some large number racing league or something. That actually has a technical name. And this level doesn't really make any sense at all. This is my least favorite level in the game. I really hate this level. This is the game level that almost killed the game for me. This level is the reason why there are a lot of tournaments I played where I won every race, but failed at this one, so I'm considered the loser of the tournament. It's all because of this level, Silver Stream. I hate this level. There's multiple paths. Your enemies often disappear, so you don't even know where they are a lot of the time. They appear like miles and miles ahead of you for some unknown reason. Like they warp to the end of the level or something like that. Because the enemies have an unfair advantage in this level. What doesn't make sense here is that the surface of this level is slippery. It's icy, obviously. It's supposed to be in Greenland, so it's like an icy, slippery level. But despite that, even though your ship is flying over the icy surface, your ship slides around as if you're driving on the surface. We're not driving on the surface, we're flying over the surface. We're ships, we fly. We don't drive, we fly. We're pilots, not drivers. But even though we're flying over the ground, it still has ice physics, like in Mario Kart games or some of those games like that where there's ice levels and people can slide around or slip around or slide into traps or things like that. Which doesn't really make sense in this game's part, which is why they got rid of that in the sequel. And there's an icy level like this in Wipeout XL, but they learned from their mistakes in the first time around, and then they realized that, yeah, it doesn't really make much sense to go slipping and sliding on the icy track, so XO, I just got rid of that. And yet, for some reason, they brought that back in Wipeout Fusion. For one game only, they brought back that it's icy or slippery in one level in Wipeout Fusion. Because Wipeout Fusion was highly reminiscent of the original Wipeout. I sometimes think the people who made Wipeout Fusion never played Wipeout XL or Wipeout 3. I think they just played the original Wipeout. We're completely unaware that it had two sequels. And same with Wipeout 64. They may have been unaware of Wipeout 64's existence too. So they thought, let's play the first game. Thought, this game looks good. We'll make a sequel to this game. So they really studied this game and they really studied this game hard and just made what could have been a sequel, a direct sequel to the original Wipeout. It's not a sequel to Wipeout in general, it's a sequel specifically to the original Wipeout, it's like the original Wipeout if it came out in 2002 or something like that. I mean, I bet if technology in the PS1 is better, they probably would have made this game more like what Wipeout Fusion is, where you could actually win points, and you could win points like currency points, and you could use it to buy stuff, you could use it to buy like ship upgrades, and weapon upgrades, and stuff like that. And there are other pilots in the game too, but it doesn't really make sense why you have a different pilot, because it doesn't change anything in your ship at all, so it's kind of a redundant feature a lot of the time. And so, we won the tournament. We came in second place. I did that on my first attempt, and I've never done that before. I never have. I didn't even think it was possible for me to win that on the first time around, but for some reason, I did. Luck was just on my side, and I thought luck was always against me when I was recording game footage, but apparently not this time around. It actually let me win. This is Ray Phoenix, signing out.